Yeah, here I am. I got a picture of me in 1972 when Secretariat won the Laurel Futurity. That's me on Secretariat, and that's my kid brother Tommy on Angle Light. And they wind up running in the Futurity. Secretariat, he just galloped. I wind up riding Angle Light in the race and finished third. And Secretariat run by us like we were tied to a pole. He did things that other horses never could do.
And it was a real muddy day.
It was a muddy, sloppy day. Turcotte kept him way out in the middle of the racetrack, and he just run by everybody like they would, not even in the race. He was a good horse. And then he went on to his 3-year-old year, and I worked him for the race when he won the Preakness. And Lucian said, just, go nice and easy with him, half a mile. And, he worked really good. He went like 48. I mean, as easy as you want a horse to go. And I wind up riding the race when he won the Preakness. I rode a horse called Torsion. Okay? So halfway around the turn, going into the turn, when they broke, my friend of mine was on Ecola Taj. He was in front. I was right on the outside of him, laying second, and he looked back at me, and he says, they called me Flea at the time. They said, Flea, let's slow it down. I said, okay. Halfway around the turn, I kind of peeked back, and I seen these blinkers coming. I yelled to Cusimano. He was only about a length in front of me. I said, hey, Cus. He says, what? I said, you better let him out a notch, because here comes this red son of a bitch. Turcotte come by us at the 3/4 pole, standing up on him, telling him, whoa. He's trying to slow him down. He's going, whoa, red, whoa, red, whoa, red. And he just galloped that day, too, winning the Preakness. That's the kind of horse he was. And you talk about a laid-back horse, he didn't have a worry in the world. He would do his work in the morning, because I was around him a lot. He would do his work in the morning, come back, eat, and lay down and go to sleep. And the groom, Shorty Sweat was his groom, and he'd come in, like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and he'd talk to him. He'd say, Red, come on, get up, I want to get done here, And he'd go in there, sit on his back, and they just talk like, like people. And then after a while, he would get up and go to the tub and eat. That was the kind of horse he was, just a laid-back old horse. He'd take 45 minutes to get to the racetrack in the morning training. He'd stop, look around, stop, take 2 steps, stop, look around, and just, and you couldn't hurry him. You push on his neck, he wouldn't move. He'd just look around, and then he'd get on the racetrack. You better be tied on, because then he'd change. He went from being a little boy to a big boy. He's just a great horse. Yeah, about Secretariat again. I hate talking about him because he was so great. But he had won all them races and everything. Then the boss, Lucian, was getting ready to run him in Canada on the grass, and he'd never been on the grass. So I was in the jock's room at Pimlico. My kid brother Paul called me. And he says to me, he said, bro. I said, well, what's up? He says, I just worked Big Red on the turf. They think he can run on the dirt. He said, wait till you see him run on the turf. He said, he's like a lawnmower. He said, he covers more ground than any horse you ever see in your life. He said, he's unbelievable. That's the kind of horse he is. And his, just being around him, like you watch him go to the racetrack, he would take at least 25 minutes to get to the racetrack, from the barn to the racetrack. Because he would stop every 3 or 4 steps, look around, and then it took you a while. And even after he worked, you turn him out, to bring him home, and he'd just stand there watching all the horses go by. That's the kind of personality that horse had for being such a great horse. He was just a laid-back dude. That's why they call him Big Red.
So since you were on Secretariat as a 2-year-old, did you imagine that he could be a Triple Crown winner?
at the time, I knew he was a good horse because, you know, I just going by all the good horses I was around growing up with Lucian and everything. Lucian always had good horses in the barn. Always had 5 or 6, 7 stake horses in the barn. But when you got on Red, he did things that other horses didn't do, you know. And the only thing that you had to think about, if he could go the distance, there wasn't too many horses that were going to beat him. He had a tremendous stride on him and an easy stride. I mean, he did things so easy. It was, you know, it was really unbelievable to be around him. And he was so big and wide. He was like a German tank. You know, I said he was all muscle. I said I think he even had muscles in his ears. He was just a tremendous horse, good looking, and the kindest horse you ever want to be around.